Hello everyone, this is Manoj. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we will discuss and talk about how we can create a web API using ASP.NET Core with Entity Framework Code First approach in .NET 6. So we'll also talk about what is a web API, how we can create a web API in Visual Studio, a complete REST API with all the operations, and also how we can consume a web API from another .NET client application. All right. So first of all, what is a web API? Basically, web API is a kind of interface which have some kind of functions that allow programmers to access some features of data. Let's say you request something if you are using any payment API, right? So you give some request and based on that request it processes some data and returns a response. So that's a kind of work of a web API. And if you see an API over the web which is can be accessed using HTTP protocol. Again, we have some HTTP verbs, and again, we can build web API using different technologies like Java and .NET. So in this video, we will use .NET Core. If you see this image, so we have some clients like this web application, mobile application, and a Windows Form application. So these are clients, and we have a web API that is in center. So you can either send request from web application, from mobile, or from WinForm, or maybe it could be from any other medium. Okay. So when you send a request, it goes to the web API, and again web API process your request. Then again, if it is using any kind of database, then it go hit the database. It gets some data based on your logic or based on your request, and whatever response it gets from the server end, it will returns back to the client, whether it is web, mobile, or WinForm. All right. Here we have some HTTP requests, or you can say these are HTTP verbs. So we have a create means post. Whenever you post something means we are creating a new record. Again we have get. So you either get, you can retrieve all the records, or if you want you can get a particular record. To update a request we have HTTP put and HTTP patch, and to delete we have HTTP delete request or HTTP delete verb. All right. So enough information. So let's go to the browser first. So if you see this interface, this is a client application. If you see, this is a ASP.NET MVC application, which is a client. And if you see, this is our API application. All right. So we have two different applications. One is acting as a web API and another one is acting as a client. So if you see, let me try to add something. Let's say admin and price add. So you see record updated and list is also getting updated, and let me update this one. So admin 123 and let's say 150 update. So record updated, also the details are updated in the list, and let's try to delete. Okay, record deleted. Okay, record is also deleted from the list. So our client application is successfully able to consume all the APIs. If you again go to the Swagger in API application, so we have a get API which is returning a complete list of products, and we have a post which is able to create a new product. We have a get based on product ID. We have a put means we can update a existing record, and we have a delete. All right. Now, if you look at the Visual Studio end, so we have a solution inside that we have two applications. One is web API, another one is client. All right. So we'll try to see how we can create both the applications from scratch and step by step. So let me close this first, and let's create a new Visual Studio application. So Visual Studio 2022, create a new project. And for this, I'll use a blank solution because we have to add two projects. So let me give demo web API, that is the name, and click on create. So our blank application has been created. You can see there is nothing in the solution. And here, first of all, let's add a new project. So right click on the solution, add new project. and ASP.NET Core Web API. You can either search from here, or if you have already created some, so you'll get the direct link on your left bar. So ASP.NET Core Web API, click on next. So let's give name Web API. Next, uncheck this configure to HTTPS, create. So this will create our ASP.NET Core Web API, a new fresh project, and we'll see when we create a new project what file and folder structure we get. You can see the project has been added, and in under this Web API umbrella we have connected services, we have dependencies, we have properties, we have controllers, app settings, program, and weather forecast. Let's close this, and this is the default page over here. And let's open this controllers. So we got a default interface, or you can say the default controller weather forecast. We don't need this. Let's delete this. We'll create each and everything from the scratch. Also this model, we don't need this one. All right. So the very first step is in this web API folder, let's add another folder and give it a name model. And inside this model, let's add a class. Based on that class, we'll create our database table. Let's give it a name product. And inside this product, let's have some properties. So the first property is ID, and another property is name. And let's add another property called price. So that will be kind of decimal. If you want, you can put it string, or you can put it as integer. All right, so we have added three properties: ID, name, and price. All right, so let's add some validation using data annotation namespace. So for this name, let's make it required. You see this required is coming from this system.component model.data annotation namespace. So double click on it. So now this property is required. If you try to pass blank or null for this name, this will throw an error. All right, we'll see when we test the APIs. Also, if you want, you can make it minimum length or maximum length. All right, so let's put, like, we need at least 3 characters for a name. All right, so I think that is okay. Let's add some annotation for this price also. Let's make it required, and let's also make a range. All right, so the price should be between, let's say, 10 to 10,000. All right, and if somebody uh, uh, gives the value below 10 or above 10,000, then let's give a error message. Price should be between 10 to 10,000 only. All right, so let's save this. So our model is ready. So that is our first step. Second step is, in this project we have to add some namespaces. So right click on it and manage NuGet packages, and in this wizard go to the browse, and here first type entity framework. So Microsoft Entity Framework Core, let's go to 6.0 install. I accept. So this will install this Microsoft dot Entity Framework Core. So this is installed. Now also close this window, and below here we also need this Microsoft Entity Framework Core dot design. Choose the version as 6.0.0 and install. I accept. That is also installed. Now another one is, we also need this tools, Microsoft.Entity Framework Core.Tools. Select the version 6.0.0, install. I accept. So that is also installed. And also let's give course So Microsoft ASP.NET course. So let's install this as well, because when we try to access the APIs from the client application, we need this course. Otherwise, we will not be able to access the APIs or endpoints from client application. All right. Now the last one is SQL Server. So we need to install this entity framework core.sql server. All right. 6.0.0 install. I accept. So all the packages are installed now. If you go to install tab, we'll see all the installed packages. You can see there is a list. So let's close it. So now the second step is also completed. Now third step is we have to create our data context or DbContext. So in the models folder, right click and add a new class, and let's give it a name, data context. So in this class we will create our DbContext. So this class will inherit our DbContext class, DbContext, Control O. So we have to import the namespace, which is Microsoft.entity framework core. And now we have to create the constructor of it. So simply type CTOR and hit tab. It will create the constructor. That's a shortcut to create a constructor of any class. So inside this, we have to pass our DbContext options. All right, just to get all the functions and properties of DbContext. So DbContext options, and inside this we have to pass our DbContext, which is our DB data context class. So just pass here, and let's create an object. So options. So through these options, we will use our features of DbContext. So our data context constructor is ready. Now we have to create our DB set. As you can see, the IntelliSense is showing. So based on this DB set and this product, our table is being created. When we run the migrations, when we run that update database command, so based on this DB set, this products table will be created in the database. All right. So our third step is also ready to create a data context. Now the fourth step is we have to create a connection string. All right. So here in this app settings.json class, we have to create a connection string. So connection string, and here give it a name, and now data source. Data source is nothing but your SQL Server name. So click on your SQL Server. Let's add another property, initial catalog. So that will be your database name. So let me give demo web API tutorial, the database name, and I'll use Windows authentication. So integrated security true. All right. So we have data source, we have initial catalog, and then we have integrated security true. All right. Now let's go to the SQL Server. So this is your server name. So let's copy it. Also, let's try to connect this. And here for the data source, simply pass it. All right. So we have three properties: data source, initial catalog, and integrated security true. So our connection string part is also ready. Now we have to inject our data context into our application using this program.cs. So in this builder.services, we have to add our DB context. All right. So after this, simply builder dot services dot add DB context. So this will add our DB context to our services. So in this DB context, we have to pass our context name, which is, if you go to our DB data context, so this is the name. So pass it here, and after that, let's create a lambda expression, not zero. Let's say x dot use SQL server. So in this SQL server, we will get our connection string. So using builder dot configuration dot get connection string, and inside this we have to pass our connection string instance name. So go to app settings.json, and this is the name, this is the key. So pass it over here, save. So we have successfully registered our DB context into the services. Also, we have to add our cores so that we can able to access the endpoint whatever we will create in this web API into our or through our client. All right. So app dot use cores. So inside this, let's create an object of this builder, and inside this builder we have to use builder dot allow origin, allow any origin, dot allow any method, and also allow any header. That's a function, allow any header. So as of now, it will accept all the request whatever we will give from our client application. All right, let's save. So our program.cs or our registration is completed. Now next step is we have to run the migration so that it will create a script based on our data context, and later on we will create the database. So go to tools, NuGet package manager console. So here the command is add migration, let's say initial setup. If you see, once we run this command, inside this web API we'll get a new folder called migrations. So let's try to run this. So build started. The moment it will create all the script over here, then we'll see a new folder called migrations, and we'll see a file which will have a complete script which will be executed at the SQL server end to create the database and the respective table. So you can see we have a new file called some name and underscore initial setup, because we have given the migration name initial setup. And if you see here, we have a script create table. Can you see that? So this is a script, and if you notice in this web API we have a new folder called migrations. All right, so we have initial setup and we have a model snapshot. All right, so our migrations ran successfully. So let's execute another command, that is update database. So that command will create the database at the SQL server end. So build started, build succeeded. Yeah, done. So this update command has executed all the script, and now if you want to see, go to your SQL server and right click on your databases, refresh. Let me close this so that it will quickly update the database folder and show us the database name. So we have created a demo web API tutorial database. So we have, see, demo web API tutorial. If we go to the table, we'll have some tables. So see, we have products. If you expand, so we have name and price. All right. So our database is created successfully. So let's again open the project. So demo web API. So our database is created. So now our next step is we have to create API endpoints. All right. To do so, right click on the controller. So let's add a controller. So new item. So right click on the controllers folder, add controller. Click on API because we'll create a API controller. So API controller empty. We'll add all the operations manually, all right? And change name as product controller, all right? So inside this, the very first step is we have to register or we have to inject our data context. So private read only data context underscore data context, and let's create a constructor of this controller class. So ctor and hit tab, and inside this data context, as you can see, IntelliSense is showing. So let's use the IntelliSense. So we have injected our data context here. So let's try to create our first API. All right. So HTTP get, and here let's add public async task enumerable type of products get, and this will return await underscore data context dot products dot to list async. Save. So our first API is ready. First let's build this project to see if there is any error. No, build succeeded. All right, so first let's try to run this. So start this, and we'll see a Swagger page, and on that we'll have a single get API. Although this will not return any data because there is no data in the table, but we'll see what kind of interface we'll get. If- Perfect. So we have a product, means we have a product controller, and if you expand this and if you try it out and execute, if you see, this will be the schema. Means, if you see, we got a blank array because there is no data inside the table. And if you see, this is the request URL. All right. Let's say if you want to, expose your endpoint. So this is your endpoint. All right. So let's close it, and let's add another API. Let's use HTTP post now. So using this, we'll add a new product in the database. So public async task action result post, and this will take our product model as input. So product, product, and now await underscore data context dot products dot add async, and simply pass the object of our product class which we will get from the client, and also await underscore data context dot save changes async. All right, so this will take this product and this will add this. The moment this line will be executed, this product, whatever information is there, that will be inserted in the database, and after that simply return OK, means success. Save. So our post is also ready, and let's try to run it and see, are we able to create a new product, and are we able to get a list of products through Swagger. All right, so Swagger is being loaded. Yeah, So let's open it, try it out. Okay, so let's give mobile, or let's say 2000, execute. Yeah, 200 means the product has been added. Let's try to get this. Perfect. So mobile 2000, all right. So let's add one more. So laptop, and price is, let's say, 50,000, all right. The moment I execute on it, so you see, we are getting that data annotation error. Price should be between 10 to 10,000 only, all right. So our validation is also working. So let's decrease it, or let's put it 10,000 only. So execute, see, 200. And if you try to get, so we are getting both the products. Perfect. So let's close this, and now let's add, let me copy paste this one, and now we will get a single product, okay, based on ID. So here HTTP get, let's pass ID, and here int ID, and that will be only action result, action result, all right. And let's delete this. So where product equal to await underscore data context dot products dot find a sync, and let's pass the ID. So if the product equal null, then we'll return not found. Else if we get the product, then we'll return okay, and simply pass the product. Save. So let's try to test this also. So we have to pass any ID which is a valid or which is available in the table. So we will get the desired product. So first let's execute all the list. So in the list we must have ID1 and ID2. So ID1 and ID2, and here let's try this one and pass ID1. So we'll get a product with the ID1, and let's say if I pass 11, so we'll see not found. Perfect. So both the cases are working, and if I pass 2, so this will give product 2. Perfect. So this endpoint is also working. Now let's try to create another endpoint to update our existing product, that is HTTP put. All right. So HTTP put, not patch, HTTP put. So here also we will need a ID, and public async task action result put. Here we will need ID and the complete product. So product and object product. So here, so based on ID, whatever we will provide, let's say if ID equal 0, then we will return bad request. Else if that is not the case, so underscore data context dot entry, and inside this we have to pass the product dot state, is equal to entity state dot modified. So it means we will update the product whatever we are passing into the database, and the details whatever is present in this model, that will be updated to the existing product based on the ID. All right. And finally, await underscore data context dot save changes async. All right. And let's return. Okay. Save. So our update method is also ready. Let's try to test it. So start this web application and we'll see 4 APIs on the Swagger page. So let's get the list first. So we'll try to update the product one. So let's copy the body and in the put, try it out. So let's pass ID 1 and also this. So as of now we have this mobile 123, and let's also go to SQL Server and new query, and we'll see the database changes in the table also. So let's choose demo web API tutorial, select star from products. So see, we have two records. So now let's try to change the name, also the price, execute. So this will update, perfect. You see, we got 200 status, and this is the request URL. And let's also execute this command. Perfect. So our details are updated in the table also. Perfect. So our put API, which is update, that is also working. Now let's close it. So let's work on the final endpoint, that is delete, and after that we'll create a client application to consume all those endpoints. All right. So here stdp delete and also pass ID, because we will need a ID to delete the particular record or particular product. So public asy async task action result typo error action result delete, and this will take ID as parameter. So let's where product is equal to data context dot products dot find async, and let's pass ID. If this product is not null, means this product is available or exist in the database. So if product is not equal null, then underscore data context dot products dot remove and pass the complete product which we just get through this command. And okay, we have to use await keyword here, and after that await underscore data context dot save changes, and after that simply return okay. And in the else part, else return not found. All right, save and let's run this project. So now we have created all the endpoints, and we'll see and test this delete one if it is working or not. So let's execute the table also. So we have two products. Also get the list here. So this will give two products as a list. Perfect. So go to the delete one, try it out. Let's say if I give ID 11, which is not present in the table. So let's see, it says not found. Perfect. And if I give ID 1, which is available in the table, so let's execute. We got 200. And if you again get the list, so we will get only one. That is as response. Also, test in the database, so execute the command. So we have single record in the table. So we have created our web application API. All right. Now let's try to create a new client application. So we'll create a new ASP.NET Core web application and we'll try to consume all those API endpoints. All right. So let me stop this. So in the demo, right click on it, add new project, ASP.NET Core web app model view controller. Click on next and let's give it a name client. Click on create, uncheck this configure for HTTPS, create. So the client application has been added and you can see these are quite similar to the web API. If you talk about file and folder structure, so here we got two more folders. So one is models and views, all right, except that I think ev- everything is quite same. Also this WWE root, all right. So if you expand this controllers, so we have a default home controller. So let's try to run this application first. So right click on it, debug, start new instance. So let's see how a default interface of an ASP.NET Core model view controller application. When we create a new application, we'll get some default interface that is provided by Microsoft Team. So we'll see in a bit. So if you see localhost colon 5211, that is our client application URL. All right, this is not the API URL. You see, this is the default interface, client home privacy. Okay, let's close it. And inside this home controller, if you go to here, right click on this index, go to view. So we have some HTML. All right. So let me delete this part and welcome to web API tutorial. All right, save. Also, let's close other pages. Now we have to add one namespace. So right click on it, manage NuGet packages. So let's add Bootstrap in this project. So Bootstrap, so that will get some default styling. Install. So that is installed. Close this. And here after that div, let's create another div. And here in this div, let's have another div with the class row. And let's add another div and it will be having a class call md2 name. Let's copy this. So in the second one, let's create a input. So input type text, and here let's give it a name txt name, and also placeholder, enter your name. Also let's try to give a class form control. All right, So let's copy this here and paste it here and change it to price. Also change the ID as txt price. We don't need any placeholder, and we have to change the type as number. All right. So we have a div, we have another div which will having a txt name input. Similarly, we have price and another div we have a txt price input. Let's try to change it as 4. So this will be taking a little more space. So in the next div, let's create another div with the class as row, and inside this we will have some buttons. All right, let's close this. Div class call button btn primary. So this will take a blue kind of color. Add button, and let me give some space. So under ampersand and bsp, let's copy paste. Update clear, and clear will be kind of danger. That will be that will take a red kind of color. So let's save. And now if we try to run this, so we'll see on the default page, that is index.html, we'll see this HTML. So we'll see a name input, we'll see a price input, and we'll see three buttons. One is add, update, and clear. Okay, let's see how this interface will come. And later on we'll add a table also, so that we can bind the list inside that. Okay. Okay, we have to run it like this. So let me close it. So to run both the project at the same time, we have to do some settings. So right click on the solution, set startup projects. So here we have to choose the projects. So multiple startup projects. So client, right click and start, same web API, start, apply, okay. Now, if you click on the start button, you can either start any of them, right click and debug. But if you click on this button directly, so it will start both the project at the same time. All right, we'll see in a bit. We'll see two different Chrome browser. So Chrome is my default browser. So maybe if you're using Edge or any other browser, so we'll see two different instances of your default browser. So here it is running. So build has started. So we'll see two different Chrome instances very soon. We are still building and executing the commands at the background. Yeah, build succeeded. So the first instance is being loaded, and if you hover this Chrome, so we'll see this is the API interface. This is also being loaded. Yeah, See, the API interface is loaded. We have 5 APIs. Okay, let's move to another instance. Perfect. So we have a name and we have a price, and that is a kind of number. So we cannot enter any alphabet. Perfect. And we have 3 buttons. So let's close it. Go back to Visual Studio. Now, after this div, let's add a table so we can display our product inside this table. So this will have class table, table hover, and let's give ID TBL products table. And in the table, let's add some T heads. So T head, T head, and inside this T head, let's add a TR. TR means a row. TR closing tag, and inside this TR, let's create some TH means table head. Also give an attribute called scope call. So this will add some default styling on this. So serial number th serial number. Let's copy paste. So the first property will be name and the second one will be price. Let's add one more, that is fourth one. So here in the table we'll display 2 buttons. All right, so our head is ready. After this, let's add table body. So table body, and inside table body we have to generate the rows dynamically. All right, so let's give ID tbl body, save. So our table is ready. So based on this ID, we'll find it using jQuery and bind the data whatever we'll get from the API endpoint. All right, so the table is also ready. Now to use jQuery, we have to add a direct CDN link. That is, we have to use a script, and type will be text JavaScript, and we have to add a source. So based on the source, it will add script. So there is a direct link, code.jquery.com, jquery hyphen 2.1.1.min.js. So that is the script which we need to use our jQuery. So https code jquery.com, jquery hyphen 2.1.1.min.js. Perfect. So now let's add another script tag. So in this script, we'll add some functions. All right. So the first one, dollar document dot ready. So this will be called whenever we have this view, whenever this view will be loaded, this document dot ready will be called automatically. So document dot ready. So inside this ready, we have to pass a function. So that will be called kind of on loading, or if you have some idea about React and Angular, so that will be called an on doc component mount. All right. So let's add another one. So function on edit. So we'll have one function when we call to get any single product. So here we'll pass ID, and let's add another one on delete. Again, to delete a product we have to pass any ID. Another one function get details. So this will be called to get all the product details, and also we have to call it inside this document dot ready. So on the time of this view is being loaded, then we have to call this whatever API will mention over here, API endpoint, that will be called. All right. So that is get details, and let's add two more. So function create. So that will help us to create a new record, and let's add another one. So function update. So that will help us to update a existing record. And finally, let's add one more function called function clear. All right. So we'll have on edit, on delete, get detail, create, update, clear. All right. So let's save. So we'll create these functions. Just to save time, I have already added these functions. These are very simple and straightforward Ajax calls. So let me quickly paste it over here. So if you see here, on this on added function, so we have added one variable called product ID. So whatever ID we are passing in this on added, we are setting the ID, or we are assigning the ID to this variable. And after that we are having options. In the options object we are passing URL type, and based on the success method and error method, finally we are giving or assigning the options to the Ajax call. So the similar kind of thing we are doing in every method except the type. If there is any, if you see this delete, we are doing the same thing. The type is different, that is delete. Here we are having get, and in the get detail we are having get, and if we get the response over here, we are simply creating rows, and we are appending the rows to our TBL body. This is nothing but our table body ID. If you see this table, we have this T body and we are having a ID. All right. So this is for this get detail. And if you see the create, then we are having same options, type, URL, object. In this object URL, we are creating a request. All right. So in the request, we are giving name and price. And from where these values are coming? These values are coming from the HTML fields. So based on this txt name and txt price. All right. So let's go to the create method. So once we have both the details, then we are stringify the data, means we are creating a JSON, and we are passing that particular JSON string to this data object. And later on, we are passing this complete options to our Ajax, and it will hit this particular post API, and it will take the response. If we are getting the response, means the message which is a response is not undefined and null, then first we are clearing all the fields, and then we are again calling this get detail to get the updated data. All right, and we'll say record updated or record added. Same thing we are doing in the update. So here we are using post method, and here we are using this put method, and we are to update a record we also need to pass existing ID, but to create any record we don't need any ID. So if you see the difference in these two requests, so here we don't have any ID, but here to update we are having a ID. All right, so that's the major difference between these two. And finally we are having a clear, which is clearing both the fields. All right, so this is pretty much about this HTML view. So let's save this and we'll try to see if our application is working or not. So let's start this. And again, we'll see two different Chrome browser instances and we'll try to access our API from the client MVC application. So you see, we are having a single product, so we are getting the single laptop with the price 10,000. And let's add some, okay, this is not being done. Okay, we have to, let's stop this first. To these buttons, we have to create on click event so that these uh, create and update will be called. All right, so here for this add, let's create on click event and this will return create. All right, so let's copy paste to here only and change it to update. Save. Also, let's copy and paste, call clear. C is small. Save, run the application again. So now we'll try to perform all the operations here on our client application. So here we are using web applications. If you are working on any some other kind of application, maybe a mobile application or a Windows application, so you can consume the APIs in a similar way. All right. If you are using, let's say, Windows applications, and then you can consume the APIs through HTTP client. All right. So let's try to add any product. So TV and let's say 20,000. Add. Okay, open developer tools, right click, inspect, and go to network tab. Now click on add. So we are getting 400. So it says the field name must be a string or type with a minimum length of 3 and price should be between 10 to 10,000. So both the validations got failed. So let's add one more alphabet and let's decrease our price. So let's clear it and click on add. So now you see we got record added. Okay, also this product got 200. All right, the first one. Okay, and the list is also updated. Let's close it. Now let's try to click on this edit. So see, both the details are populated in the fields. So let's say TV Microsoft and price, let's say 7,500. Update. So record updated. Okay, so details are updated in the list as well. Let's try to click on delete. Are you sure to delete this record? Okay, record deleted. Perfect. So this is how you can consume your web API into any .NET Core application. So we are using this web application, so we are using jQuery. If you are using console, Windows or any other simulator kind of thing, then you can use HTTP client and you can use those endpoints. If you see here, get details. So you can use these endpoints to consume the APIs. All right. So this is pretty much about this video, and I hope this will be very fruitful to all of you who are learning how to create a web API, how to consume the API, and how to perform basic CRUD operation using .NET client application. And this will also give you some basics about how to create ASP.NET Core, model view, or MVC controller kind of application. All right. So that's it about today's video. If you are working on any your college project, or if you are doing any kind of internship and in your project you are facing some problem, or if you need any kind of help creating a new project, then you can contact me. You can contact me on my Instagram, you can contact me on my WhatsApp number. So these details you can find in my channel description. So you go to my YouTube channel, and in the contact details you will find all these contact information. So connect with me, we'll help each other. All right, so I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.